I was ready to end everything that night. The ring in my pocket wasn't for a proposal, it was a parting gift. But what I witnessed in those few moments changed not just my mind, but my entire heart. If you've ever misjudged someone only to discover the beautiful truth hidden beneath the surface, this story will touch your soul. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more life-changing stories that remind us why second chances matter. Alexander Reed stood at the entrance of the Grand Horizon Hotel, his tall figure casting a long shadow across the marble floor. At 34, he had everything most men dreamed of, a thriving tech empire valued at billions, properties scattered across 3 continents, and a face that graced the covers of business magazines. Yet tonight, his usual confidence had abandoned him. In his pocket sat a small velvet box containing the diamond tennis bracelet he had purchased for Elise Montgomery 3 months ago, a gift he now intended to take back as he ended their relationship. The hotel staff recognized him immediately, bowing slightly as he passed. Alexander barely acknowledged them, his mind replaying all the reasons why Elise had to go. 6 months into their relationship, and he had finally seen her true colors. Elise Montgomery, beautiful, charming, and utterly self-absorbed. At least, that's what he believed. Their courtship had been a whirlwind. They met at a charity gala where she had been working as an event coordinator. Her laughter had drawn him across the room, and her intelligent conversation had kept him there long after the event concluded. For the first few months, Alexander had been convinced he'd found someone special, someone who cared about more than his wealth or status. But lately, things had changed. Elise constantly cancelled their dates with vague excuses. When they attended functions together, she would disappear for long stretches of time. Last week, his CFO mentioned seeing her leaving an expensive restaurant with another man. The final straw came yesterday when she had borrowed his credit card and spent thousands without explanation. Alexander had built his empire on careful judgment of character. He wouldn't allow himself to be played for a fool. The annual Tech Innovation Banquet was winding down on the hotel's top floor. Alexander had specifically told Elise not to attend. He wanted to break things off privately afterward. Yet his assistant had texted him minutes ago saying she'd been spotted at the hotel. Typical, he thought bitterly. She couldn't even respect this one request. As the elevator climbed, Alexander rehearsed the speech he would deliver. Clean, quick, and final. No room for manipulation or second chances. The doors opened to the 30th floor, but instead of heading to the banquet hall, he followed the sound of voices down a service corridor. What Alexander saw through the partially open door froze him in place. There was Elise, still in her elegant blue evening gown, her dark hair piled artfully on her head, but she wasn't with another man. She was supervising hotel staff as they carefully packed leftover food from the banquet into containers. Her sleeves were rolled up, and she was personally wrapping desserts, giving clear, kind instructions to the workers around her. "We need to keep the hot and cold items separate," she was saying. "These children don't get treats like this often, and I want everything to be perfect for them." A hotel manager approached her, looking concerned. "Ms. Montgomery, you haven't cleared this with the event organizers. Technically, this food belongs to the tech conference." Elise straightened, her expression determined. "I coordinated this event, Martin. The contract stipulates that leftover food becomes hotel property. I've already spoken with Chef Pascal, and he's approved this donation to the Sunshine Orphanage. Unless you want me to call the hotel owner, who happens to be my godfather, we'll continue as planned." Alexander pulled back from the doorway, his mind racing. The Sunshine Orphanage? The pieces started falling into place. The mysterious absences. The man his CFO had seen her with, likely someone connected to the orphanage. But what about the money she had spent? As if on cue, a young woman in hotel uniform approached Elise with a stack of receipts. "Ms. Montgomery, here are all the receipts for the children's winter coats, books, and art supplies. Should I charge them to your personal account as usual?" Elise took the papers, looking momentarily worried. Actually, I had to use my boyfriend's card this time. My accounts are frozen until this inheritance issue with my late aunt is resolved. She bit her lip. I was going to tell him tonight and pay him back as soon as the lawyers clear everything. Alexander felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath him. Every assumption he had made was crumbling. As he watched, Elise glanced at her watch and frowned. We need to hurry. The children will be waiting up, and tomorrow's a school day. Her voice softened. Many of them have never tasted food like this. Can you imagine never having eaten chocolate mousse cake? The tenderness in her voice struck Alexander with the force of a physical blow. He had built his career on reading people, yet he had completely misread the woman he claimed to care about. Alexander stepped back, nearly colliding with a hotel employee. He quickly made his way to a quiet alcove and pulled out his phone. A few searches confirmed what he had just learned. Elise was a regular volunteer at the Sunshine Orphanage, having started a program that redistributed excess food from high-end events to children in need. Further digging revealed articles about her fights with city officials to allow such donations, which many hotels and restaurants had refused for liability reasons. By the time Alexander returned to the service corridor, the staff were loading the last containers onto carts. Elise was speaking quietly on her phone. Yes, Miss Chen, we're bringing everything now. 23 children, right? Any allergies I should know about? Perfect. We'll be there in 30 minutes. She ended the call and turned, directly into Alexander's gaze. Her expression shifted from surprise to guilt to determination in the span of seconds. Alexander. I can explain about the credit card. He raised his hand to stop her. I heard everything. The orphanage, the donations, the inheritance issue. He paused, struggling with words for perhaps the first time in his adult life. I've made a terrible mistake, Elise. Confusion flickered across her face. What mistake? The box felt heavy in his pocket, heavier still with the knowledge of what he had planned to do with it. I didn't understand why you kept disappearing, why you needed money suddenly. I jumped to conclusions. Terrible, unfair conclusions. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You thought I was cheating on you. It wasn't a question. Alexander felt shame wash over him. Yes. I thought worse than that, actually. I thought you were using me for my money and status. I came here tonight to end our relationship. Elise didn't respond immediately. She looked at the food carts, then back at him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke. You could have asked me, Alexander. That's what people do in relationships, they ask questions before making judgments. The truth of her words stung, but he deserved it. You're right. I've spent so much of my life protecting myself from people who want something from me that I forgot how to trust. He gestured to the food carts. Can I come with you tonight? I'd like to see this part of your life. Elise studied him for a long moment. These children aren't a spectacle, Alexander. If you come, it's to help, not to ease your conscience. Her directness, the very quality that had first drawn him to her, made him smile despite the gravity of the moment. I understand. I want to help. The ride to the Sunshine Orphanage was mostly silent. Alexander sent his driver home and traveled in the delivery van with Elise and 2 hotel employees. As they drove through progressively less affluent neighborhoods, Alexander realized how little he knew of this part of the city despite having lived here for 15 years. The orphanage was a worn but well-maintained building on a quiet street. As the van pulled up, the front door opened, and a small woman with gray-streaked hair emerged, followed by several children of various ages. Ms. Elise is here, one of the younger children called out, and suddenly there was a flurry of activity as more children appeared, their faces bright with excitement. Alexander stood back, watching as Elise greeted each child by name, high-fiving some and hugging others. She showed no trace of the polished socialite he was accustomed to seeing at galas and business functions. Here, she was authentic in a way he had rarely witnessed. "Everyone, this is my friend Alexander," Elise announced. "He's going to help us set up dinner tonight." The children regarded him with curious eyes. A small girl with braided hair approached him solemnly. "Are you Ms. Elisa's boyfriend? She told us her boyfriend is very busy making computers that help people." Alexander knelt down to meet her eyes. "Yes, I am. And what's your name?" "Lily. I'm 7¾ It's very nice to meet you, Lily. Would you show me where these food containers should go?" The next 2 hours were unlike anything Alexander had experienced. He helped set up tables, served food to eager children, and listened to their stories. Some had lost parents to illness or accidents, others had been abandoned or removed from unsafe homes. Yet despite their circumstances, they showed a resilience and joy that humbled him. He watched Elise move among them, attentive to each child's needs. She knew who was struggling in school and who had a birthday coming up. She remembered which boy was saving for a bicycle and which girl loved to draw. This wasn't charity to her, these children were part of her life. When dinner was finished and the younger children had been tucked into bed, Alexander helped Elise clean up in the orphanage's modest kitchen. Ms. Chen, the director, had thanked them profusely before going to complete her evening paperwork. "You do this often," Alexander said as they worked side by side. It wasn't a question. Elise nodded, placing leftover desserts in the refrigerator. 3 or 4 times a month, sometimes more. "I grew up in a place like this, did you know that?" Alexander stopped wiping the counter. "No, I had no idea." She closed the refrigerator door and leaned against it. "My parents died when I was 6. Car accident. I spent 10 years in the foster system, including 3 at a group home not unlike this one." She gestured around them. "I was one of the lucky ones. My high school guidance counselor helped me get a scholarship to college. Not everyone here will have that chance." Alexander felt a swell of emotion. How had he never asked about her childhood? How had he claimed to care for her without knowing something so fundamental about who she was? "The man your CFO saw me with is Dr. Reeves, a pediatrician who volunteers his time here. We were discussing setting up regular health screenings for the children." She smiled faintly. "And yes, I used your credit card to buy winter necessities for the kids. I was going to tell you, but you've been so distant lately. I thought you were pulling away because of my background." Alexander set down the cloth he'd been using. "Your background? Let's be honest, Alexander. You come from old money and prestigious schools. I'm an orphan who worked her way through state college. When you stopped calling as often and started watching me with that calculating look, I assumed you'd decided I wasn't the right fit for your world." The irony struck him like a physical blow. All this time, she had been insecure about her worth to him, while he had been questioning her motives. "Elise, I don't care about any of that. I care about you, the real you. And I think I'm just beginning to understand who that is." He took a deep breath. "I came here tonight to return something to you and end our relationship. Now I realize I want the exact opposite." He reached into his pocket and pulled out the velvet box. Elisa's eyes widened as he opened it, revealing the diamond tennis bracelet he had given her months ago. "I thought you were returning this to break up with me," she said softly. "I was." He closed the box and placed it back in his pocket. "But I was wrong, about everything. Instead of taking something away, I want to offer something new. Not tonight, I haven't earned that right yet. But I want the chance to know you, Elise. The real you, not the version I thought I knew." Tears gathered in her eyes. "You hurt me, Alexander. You were ready to throw away what we have without even talking to me. I know. And I'm more sorry than I can say." He reached for her hand, relieved when she didn't pull away. "I've spent my life building walls to protect myself. It's made me successful in business but a failure at relationships. I don't want to fail with you. She studied him, her gaze searching. This isn't just because you saw me being charitable. I'm not a saint, Alexander. I get angry. I make mistakes. I've spent 15 years trying to prove I deserve a place in this world. Sometimes that makes me push too hard. I don't want a saint, he replied. I want you, complicated, passionate, determined you. If you'll give me another chance, I promise to listen before I judge. To ask before I assume. To be worthy of your trust. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of choices. Finally, Elise stepped forward. We start over, she said. Clean slate. And this time, we talk to each other, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. Alexander nodded, relief washing over him. I'd like that. Outside the orphanage, the city lights twinkled against the night sky. As they walked to the car Alexander had called, Elise suddenly stopped. Why did you follow me tonight? If you were planning to break up with me, why not just wait until I came to you? Alexander considered the question. I told myself it was because I wanted to confirm my suspicions. But the truth? I think some part of me was hoping to be wrong. Elise smiled, a small, tentative smile that held the promise of forgiveness. For a brilliant CEO, you can be remarkably oblivious. I'm learning, he said, taking her hand. I'm learning. In the weeks that followed, Alexander immersed himself in Elise's world. He toured the orphanage during daylight hours, meeting staff and learning about their needs. He established a foundation to support not just Sunshine Orphanage but similar institutions across the city. More importantly, he listened as Elise shared stories of her childhood, the painful parts and the moments of unexpected joy. 6 months later, he found himself back in the orphanage kitchen, helping prepare a special birthday dinner for twins who had recently arrived. Elise was teaching them to make their grandmother's cookie recipe, flour dusting her cheeks as she laughed with the children. Alexander watched, feeling a certainty he had never known in business or in life. That night, after the celebrations had ended and they had returned to his penthouse, he led Elise to the balcony overlooking the city. I have something for you, he said, reaching into his pocket. This time, the box he withdrew was smaller, and when he opened it, a single diamond solitaire caught the moonlight. Elise's breath caught. Alexander. I had it all wrong that night, he said, his voice low and certain. I thought I knew you, but I was only seeing what I expected to see. You taught me to look deeper, to find the truth beneath appearances. He knelt before her. I love you, Elise Montgomery. Not for your charity or your kindness, though those are part of you. I love you for your strength, your passion, your history. Everything that makes you who you are. Will you marry me? Tears spilled down her cheeks as she nodded. Yes. Yes, I will. As he slid the ring onto her finger, Alexander thought of how close he had come to losing her. One moment, one decision, had changed everything. If he hadn't followed her that night, if he hadn't seen beyond his own assumptions. 3 years later, Alexander and Elise Reed stood together at the opening of the Montgomery House, a revolutionary center for aging-out foster youth that provided housing, education, and job training. What had begun as a simple food donation program had evolved into a comprehensive support system for vulnerable young adults. As Elise cut the ribbon, surrounded by children from Sunshine Orphanage and donors from across the country, she caught Alexander's eye. In that glance was the acknowledgement of how far they had come, from misunderstanding to partnership, from judgment to trust. Later that night, as they walked through the empty center, Elise turned to him. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't followed me that night? Alexander pulled her close. Every day. It reminds me never to take what we have for granted. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. You saved me, you know. Not the other way around. Elise smiled. We saved each other. And now we're helping save others. As they turned to leave, Alexander paused at a wall displaying photographs of successful program graduates. Among them was Lily, now a teenager, beaming as she held her college acceptance letter. "One moment can change everything," he said softly. "One decision to look deeper, to see beyond the surface." Elise squeezed his hand. "One choice to believe in someone, even when it's easier not to." Outside, the city stretched before them, filled with stories yet to be discovered, lives yet to be changed. And in that moment, both knew that their greatest achievement wasn't the business empire or the charitable foundation, but the love they had built from the ashes of misunderstanding, a love founded on seeing the truth in each other when the world saw only what it expected to see. If you've been touched by Alexander and Elise's journey from judgment to understanding, from assumption to love, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of the power of second chances and seeing beyond appearances. Remember, the most beautiful truths often lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for someone brave enough to look deeper.